My name is John MacPherson. I'm a 3-site manager down here at Coolmore for Mowi. I've started with Mowi back in 2021, where I was a farm technician on our Scalpay site, which is now just around the corner from here. Then I moved over to Portnalong for a little while as the manager in there, and I've been here since February last year, so coming up on 2 years now. It's been really good. It's certainly not without its challenges. We're really lucky where we are. It's a really nice wee place we've got down here. We've got a great building to work in and things like that. But yeah, fish farming in itself, anybody that's involved in it knows that there's no 2 days the same, and no day is without its challenges. I've lived on Skye pretty much my entire life, where I've been lucky enough to buy a house in Portree just before COVID hit and things went crazy. So I stay up in Portree, which is about 20 miles from the site. I live with my girlfriend Sarah, who comes from North Uist. We were fortunate enough to get a golden retriever puppy last December, so she's certainly keeping us on our toes. And to be honest, my life outside of work revolves mostly around making sure she has the best life possible. I have been on and around fish farms for pretty much all of my life. Before I was even in school, I was going out with my dad, who ran a fish farm on the west side of the island. Back then it was like just 2 pipes and no walkways in between them. And if too many of you stood in the same place, then the pipes would start sinking and your wellies would fill up with water. Very different to where we are now. After that, I had a fish farming job helping my dad out on weekends, where we'd just take a Volvo out to one of the farms in Lochtonvegan, hand feed the fish, because it was just a small business at that point, no barges, and then come back in. That was probably what spurred on my passion for fish farming now. Then when I left school, I did a wee bit of fishing and a little bit more fish farming. Went away to college in Glasgow, studied marine engineering for a few years, but they tried to get me to leave Skye, which was hard. I think I made it as far as London on my way to Bangkok before I decided, you know what, no, I'm coming back to be a fish farmer. Called them up and said, look, I'm not going to do it. Came home, did again a little bit of fishing with my dad, and then ended up fish farming, and I've been doing that since 2017 up till now. The site itself that we're operating now, Carry's been round the corner. That's been operating for a number of years. We do believe it's the most photographed site on the island, because everybody driving on or off the island spots it. It's one of the first things you see as you start getting close to the water. Mulban, which is just out in front of the shore base here, has been operating for a number of years as well, which originally started up by Alistair Ferguson of Ferguson Salmon, which we now have the privilege of using today. And then Sconser Quarry, Mowi established that a couple of years ago, so that's only done a few cycles. It's the youngest site here. And every site is 160 metre pens here. As a cumulative area for a sort of single site, we are one of the biggest biomass consents in Mowi, so it's a lot of responsibility to be on just my head. Or before I was here, there was 2 managers doing my job, and before that there was 4 managers doing my job. So film this now, I also got a full head of hair. In a few years time it's not going to be there, that's for sure, but it's good. It's very rewarding. It is very rewarding. You can go home knowing every day that you've done the best you possibly can and you've made a difference, which is great. In here we've got anything from 200,000 fish to just 90,000 fish in our pens. They are the second biggest size of pens in the country. I have to say they're an absolute breeze to work with. There's so much room for not only us on the pen side, but there's so much room for the salmon in the nets as well. I mean, they're 15 meters deep just down to the sidewall, and then you've got right down to the cone after that, and 160 meter circumference. So yeah, it's a lot of room for us and them. A great day is a 5 kilo harvest, and getting it and just doing like odds and ends. On a really bad day is lifting after lunch when you've been stormed off in the morning. Or the perfect moment where you're sitting on the site and it's silent because you're in either before or after the feeding started. There's no barge running, no spinners turning. All you can hear is like the odd salmon jump and splash and land, and like the waves lapping on the side of the pen. That is like, it's like white noise to me. I'd go to sleep to that if it was socially acceptable to be that obsessed. Yeah, I think it's actually difficult to just put into words how being part of the aquaculture industry actually affects your life. Like, it's not just a job. It's not just something you show up and then you go home and forget about it. You know, it really is part of life. At the end of the day, those salmon, they are our livelihood. We really care about them. We enjoy working with them. We enjoy looking after them. And when you see them come on from being, 100 grams, and you're putting a panel through and you're seeing just the best of your fish, those golden 5 kilo fish at the end of the day, it really does mean a lot. I think back to when I left college to come home, and I knew I could come home and get a good job because of fish farming and the aquaculture industry, and get home every single night, which is what I wanted. Like, if it wasn't for fish farming, I wouldn't have been able to buy my house in Portree, but it was thanks to having like the job security that fish farming offers now. Yeah, okay, it's a massive company, but it's a massive company operating in a very small community. So yeah, it means a lot that you can go to work, get your job done, take home a good salary, and then get home every single night. And you live and breathe fish farming when you're part of it, or certainly I do. The people that you've worked with over the years, they all still work in the industry. You bump into them every now and then. Yeah, I think it really brings it home just how much a part of salmon farming is when you're coming home at night to your girlfriend who works in salmon farming. You're phoning your dad on the way home, and he supplies wrasse to the salmon farming industry. Or people that are using the sea and work at sea and are passing fish farms all the time, and it's fish farms that they call if something goes wrong, because we're at hand all the time. There's people there all the time to help them out. It's just, it's everywhere, and it's a big part of our lives up here. It's thanks to aquaculture and companies like Mowi and Bakkafrost and Scottish Sea Farms that people who have grown up in the islands can actually stay in them and enjoy staying in them and have a good job to go to every day. It's going to give them consistency and the ability to afford the crazy house prices that seem to be happening across the board. Well, I am extremely lucky here at Coolmore to have such a brilliant team working underneath me, because it goes without saying that I would not be able to do my job, or certainly not be able to do my job half as well as I can now, if it wasn't for the guys I've got working with me. Like, I'm fortunate enough that one of my I think both of my assistant managers have been working with the company for well over 15 years. One of which actually was a manager prior to being assistant manager, and that wealth of knowledge, losing them would be like losing my right hand. They're such a asset to me and really make my life easier on the day-to-day. Not only does Mowi look after their staff, but they look after their community as well, through a variety of different ways, whether it's supporting the local Camanachd Association or sponsoring local football teams, donating to charities like RNLI or Loch Alsh Leisure Centre, Skye Triathlon. They've also got a salmon wagon that they drive around, going to different events around the country, cooking our salmon, selling it to people, and then the proceeds from that all go to charity, which is a really good event. And I mean, I'm not being biased, but the salmon meals they do in there are actually really tasty as well. They're exactly how I would cook it at home, in that sort of kind of Thai noodly kind of way, or hoisin noodles I think it is. We also work with local schools. We're working with Portree High School on a couple of projects like Outward Bound and Sea to Me. We also help out with the rural schools, which is kind of showing local school pupils what goes on their doorstep. You know, there's salmon farms all over Skye, all over the west coast of Scotland. So it's an effort to sort of take them out and show them what goes on, what is actually happening on these pens, and kind of build it into their curriculum a wee bit so that they can learn about what we do and potentially come and join us one day. Mowi has actually been supporting the Camanachd or Shinty Association for over 38 years now. So it's no wonder that a few of our team members from across the island actually take part in Shinty, when it's such a big way of life here too. Just behind our shore base building here, Mowi is going to be planting 102 hectares of native broadleafed woodland. Going back to when I started here, we used to have to drive along this road down to the site every morning, crawling along in our car because the road was in such a poor state of repair. But since then, Mowi have substantially contributed to getting the road fixed. So now you could probably go as far as saying certainly the best part of it is one of the best roads on Skye. But as a result of us paying for it, we obviously take good care and drive very slowly into work, which is a great opportunity to overlook our Sconser Quarry and Moban site as you're passing along the road, and you get that sort of 10-15 minutes extra warning where if there's something not quite right, something's not adding up, maybe some of the cans are a little bit out of line, or there's a few too many seagulls hanging about than you'd like. Just gives you that 10-15 minutes extra warning that you're going to have an interesting day at work. So yeah, today we're going to be going out and doing my favourite bit of the cycle, which is harvest time. The plan is to go out, we'll prep the pen, lift the sliders, and then we're going to shoot what's called a panel net into the pen. There's basically a big sweep net that's going to sweep through the entire population of the fish, but in the middle of it, it's got what we call the grading panel, which is plastic bars that are set widths apart. In this case, we're using a 63mm panel, which will allow the smaller fish to swim through the grader and the bigger fish to stay in, to ensure that we're only getting like the very best of our crop out for the harvest time, allowing the smaller fish to stay in the pen and grow on for that wee bit longer. Today we're going to be using a dead haul boat, so unlike the sort of conventional harvest, or what we would say is conventional nowadays, these fish will be taken on board and killed and bled on site, held in slush water until reaching the factory for processing. And another point that's worth mentioning is that these fish that we're harvesting today, the average weight is about 3.5 kilos. By putting this panel through the pen, we should see something come out the other end around about 4.2 kilos. So yeah, once we've finished here today, if everything goes to plan, we will empty this panel out completely and we'll get all of our biggest fish away for harvest, which would be absolutely brilliant. Then it's time to take the panel out. So we pull the sort of recovery rope, if you like, which bunches the whole thing up together, allowing any fish that are remaining or are behind the panel, or just generally around the panel, that allows them to swim out the sides, and we can take the panel out safely without harming any of our fish. Once the panel's out, reset the pen, tidy up, put our uplift back in so the base of the net's tensioned, and it's time to go home. What do I like most about the job? This job, it's never the same. Any 2 days of the week are never the same. Yeah, different challenges to face every day. Sometimes they're really hard. Sometimes it seems like it's going to be a massive issue, and then you actually start tackling it and it's no problem at all. The variety of it all is what makes this job so interesting. You know, one day I'm in here, I'm tied to the desk chair, and getting prepped for one of our bigger audits like Global Gap or ASC. Another day I'm out on the pen side all day harvesting or treating or just generally doing lice counts and trying to make sure everything's ticking over as it should. So yeah, no 2 days are the same, and I think that's the biggest pro about working on a fish farm.